Noodle, and it's a joyous occasion. It's the beginning of the football season.
Yes.
I personally haven't seen you in about 4 weeks since Canton
Yes.
Pro Football Hall of Fame. I have a couple of questions for you, sir.
Yes.
Your 2002 squad was predicated on defense. I think it's easy to say that this current squad is a top 3 offense. What stands out about this offensive juggernaut of a team?
Well, you look at the talent, at every position. It deserves to be in that type conversation. Starting at the quarterback position when arguably the greatest quarterback of my era is leading this offense, it starts with him. But when I look at this team across the board, offensively that is, start with those guys up front. They got a really good mix of veteran and young guys that are playing together. And the way that Tom has orchestrated this offense and figuring out how to get the ball in the hands of playmakers, deservedly so. And the fact that, 22 guys are back from the starters, they deserve this attention. But I'm always leaning guys toward the defense. And I feel last year, particularly in the playoffs, the defense carried this team to that championship. And they have everybody back too. So I think our defense is a little bit underrated. But again, I think they'll do something about that in 21.
What do you think about that rookie tackle from Iowa?
He did a great job, coming in. Everybody knew coming in that he was going to play. And I know what it was like to be a day one starter. Coming in and these veterans thinking like, who is this guy? How do he prove himself? And Tristan was able to do that. And again, protected Tom Brady, even more pressure on him. So Tristan did a great job this past year. Again, he was really never allowed to be a rookie when you think about it. When you come in playing, he's ready to expect you to perform, to step up and play, and he did it.
Talk about getting all 22 players back. Obviously, having won a Super Bowl, you always hear the next year the Super Bowl hangover. The team that loses the Super Bowl rarely gets back, but the team that won it usually gets purged of a lot of players and has a tough time getting back there too. For them to keep the 22 players, like you said, all 22 coming back, do you think that there's still a chance of a Super Bowl hangover, though?
No. You listen to Coach Arians, he's constantly telling everybody how this 2021 team hasn't accomplished anything. And I think they've done a great job of moving on from the head coach down of that mindset. So I don't think the word hangover really applies to this 2021 team. And for me, seeing behind the scenes how they're working, how they're focusing moving forward, and I think if anyone's having a hangover, it's probably the fans. They're probably going to have a few hangovers.
Very true. Derrick, I have to ask you a question. Being the Hall of Fame defensive linebacker that you are, you played under Monty Kiffin, and this defense now is playing under Todd Bowles. Can you speak to the similarities of what these two defensive coaches are bringing to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team?
I think from obviously the consistency of their schemes, obviously us being a primarily 4-3 team, Coach Bowles primarily being a 3-down pressure team. Each one of these coordinators understood what's best for their players and put them in those positions. And each one of these coaches has done a great job of coaching their coaches. And that's one of those secret sauce things that people tend to not think about when you have a championship team. Not only did they return all starters, they returned all of their coaches. And that, to me, is one of those things that people don't discuss, but yet it's so critical too, because keeping this staff together means the same thing, that everybody's getting the same message and everybody's growing and knowing together. So I would say that the ability for them to coach their coaches, meaning Coach Bowles and Coach Kiffin, has been probably one of their greatest strengths, is coordinating defenses.
I have an offensive and a defensive question that only your mind can answer. For those who are older, they remember G.I. Joe, the twins, Saymont and Tomax, or Batman and Robin dynamic duo.
I'm not going to tell my age.
Well, imagine if you added a triplet to Batman and Robin or Saymont to Tomax, and his name is Antonio Brown. How exactly do you stop that wide receiver core? And on the flip side, what are your personal thoughts about Devin White?
I'll start the latter. I really like what Devin is in his career right now. And you give a lot of that growth to playing beside Levante David. He's been the consummate pro to help this young man grow throughout his career. And again, Devin's just touching the surface of his talent. He continues to work hard. And every time I talk to him, man, it's about, hey, what can I do next? How can I improve my game? And looking for those little intricacies in terms of what other teams see against him so he can attack his weakness. So I like his mindset on daily improvement in terms of what he's trying to do. And bringing Antonio Brown to this offense last year was critical. When the team went through some injuries at that position, he was able to come in, step up, and win the confidence of his team. And obviously, been a successful receiver early part of his career and bringing that knowledge to this team ended up being something that they needed in terms of their chemistry. So I look for him to have a big season here coming back.
And when you talk about, Herm Edwards always talks about obviously first games and it's the adrenaline that players have before a game. Well, now getting presented a ring, and with that adrenaline, it's hard not to get too high and maybe even burn a little bit of energy. Having been through it, what's your advice to the players tonight?
Well, tonight is, hey, realizing that, the NFL here is to open the season. And once you get through those 15, 20 minutes, players are really focused on the game. All the fireworks, bells, whistles, the flyovers, all those things, you appreciate from a standpoint of the fan. But when players get to this stadium, they're locked in on the game. And it's just symbolic about, recognizing last year's team, and rightfully so. We're going to have a packed house here, and the fans deserve to be here to show their appreciation. But believe me, the men that are wearing those helmets, they've moved on, and they're ready to play the game tonight.
Derrick, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Derrick.